Bienvenidos nuevamente. El día de hoy tenemos un programa especial. Vamos a tocar un tema que lo hemos platicado, se ha mencionado, pero no hemos tocado a fondo. ¿Cómo se ve el ferromodelismo en la juventud en el día de hoy? Martín, para ti son buenas tardes. Para mí, la hora de grabación son buenas noches. ¿Cómo estás, Martín?
Muy bien, acá muy contento. Sí, es un día adelantado, viernes acá en Australia, después de lo que se llamó el Australia Day, que fue un día feriado. Y sí, disfrutando horas del viernes para empezar el fin de semana.
Perfecto. Y antes de introducir, abajo ven a nuestro invitado de honor, joven, Daniel Coombs. Quiero aprovechar, mañana también lo voy a hacer en otro programa en vivo, a Martín. Al rato vamos a platicar, por ahí ganó un premio en Australia, el persona
Sí,
del environment del año. Entonces ya luego lo vamos a platicar, pero bueno, me adelanto, mañana en vivo lo vamos a platicar.
bueno,
Y ya
muchas
saben, por
gracias.
problemas de horario, el día de hoy lo estamos grabando. Así es que, sin más revuelo, vamos a dar la bienvenida a Daniel Coombs. Daniel, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me here. It's great to be on.
Yeah.
Martín, ¿quieres hacer tú la primera pregunta?
Yes, how are you, Daniel?
Doing good.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you for the opportunity to have you in this program and share your life, your passion for the hobby with people from Latin America and Spain. So we really appreciate your time. First question is very easy. Who are you, Daniel?
Okay, so for those of you who may not know me, my name is Dino Coombs. I am a 21-year-old in St. Louis, Missouri. I am also featured on What's Neat This Week with Ken Patterson, his YouTube monthly and the weekly podcast that we've been doing now for over 3 years. Been a model railroader since I was about 6 years old, so I've been in the game for a long, long time.
Es más de lo que yo llevo en el hobby. Le voy a traducir rápidamente. Tiene
Sí.
21 años, acabo de fallar, yo pensé que tenía 20. Le gusta el ferromodelismo desde los 6 años, entonces prácticamente lleva 17 años, 17, perdón, 15 años en todo esto. Y algunos lo han visto en el show de Ken Patterson, a veces está detrás de la cámara, adelante, pero bueno, él es Daniel Coombs y él el día de hoy nos va a platicar un poco su pasión. Algunos ya saben, y yo creo que se lo pueden imaginar, que aquí tengo dos personas que son amantes de Union Pacific. Daniel Coombs le gusta Union Pacific. Y la pregunta es, why Union Pacific? Tell me. We know that we have Jello in the interview today, and explain us or share with us, why do you like Union Pacific instead of, something else, BNS or Santa Fe or something else? Why Union Pacific?
Oh, goodness. Well, now that you said it, Eduardo, that's a very good question. I would have to say I like it because I was fascinated that the railroad had operating steam locomotives in the program. And as my full-time profession, I am a mechanic. So I kind of like stuff that's either a diesel motor, maybe a steam engine. Just the mechanical part of a steam engine is just fascinating to watch with all the different piping, all the different side rod motions, and kind of all the mechanical aspects of a steam locomotive. So once I found out and got old enough to learn Union Pacific was the only railroad to maintain a steam program, that's why I've been interested in the railroad. And plus, we got Union Pacific running all over the place here in St. Louis, too.
That's right. Martín,
Okay.
¿traduces? Otra
Sí.
similitud de Martín y Daniel, ¿eh?
Sí.
Vapor.
Before I do the translation, I share the same passion, and I guess I got hooked with Union Pacific because of the steam program too. So that's a nice coincidence. So, traduciendo al español, la pregunta de Eduardo fue simplemente que por qué le gustaba a Daniel el ferrocarril Union Pacific, y Daniel nos dice que él es un mecánico, su profesión es mecánico y tiene admiración por todo lo que sea obviamente mecánico, los sistemas, las tuberías, cómo funciona. Y le encantó que Union Pacific fuera uno de los pocos ferrocarriles que tienen un programa de mantener locomotoras a vapor corriendo. Entonces eso lo ayudó a enamorarse, digamos, de una manera del ferrocarril, y a su vez también él vive en Missouri. Missouri es uno de los lugares donde UP corre habitualmente.
Perfecto. Y yo tenía en mente un poquito para entrar una pregunta más profunda. 20 años, tienes toda la vida por delante, Daniel. ¿Cómo ve el ferromodelismo? ¿No? Es algo que en el programa hemos tenido personas de diferentes edades, pero pues, normalmente mayores, y ahorita queremos preguntarle, desde su punto de vista, una persona que le gusta Union Pacific, joven, ¿cómo ve el ferromodelismo en el futuro? Entonces, ¿se la traduces tú en inglés si quieres para
Sí,
topar?
obvio. Daniel, Eduardo is asking you, you are in your early 20, you're very young. So
Right.
normally we have in this program, people like 40, over 40, 50, 60. And
yeah, I'm vegan.
yeah, included us. So how through your eyes, what you can see as a young modeler, let's say you have already 15 years on this hobby, how you see the hobby, what you think, what's coming, what enjoy, just through your eyes, from your point of view, what's the hobby, and any you want to express about it.
Well, a lot of things I've been seeing, and like I've been told by, of course, some of the older gentlemen that be in their late 40s now, early 50s, and like, doggone, you young kids get all the good technology, stuff
Yeah.
like that. So speaking on technology, I have just seen a drastic impact of many different, what do you want to call it, assets that have come into the hobby, like our 3D printing. We've been experimenting that on the What's Neat show, and I'm sure the last podcast was just uploaded, so I'm sure you guys seen it, maybe not. But we talked extensively. We had the Geno Robotics gentleman in Alabama come on. 3D printing, I think, is just going to become a marvel in modernity as a whole. Because now all of a sudden, here brings a big dynamic change to where instead of going to the store kind of buying a pre-made kit, or if there's something rare that has only been made by one manufacturer, and if you have a 3D printer, you're able to then 3D print, that building, for example, or maybe a street scene or some figures, something like that. I'm just seeing that there's more and more technology that's being implemented. And as enthusiastic as I am kind of about computers and DCC and all the electrical work that I try to get involved with in the hobby, I find that there's every year something changing, and yet there's something new that's always being come out.
Quisiera complementar antes de traducir por qué le gusta o cómo ve Daniel Coombs la parte del ferromodelismo. I want to say something before I translate. Many people, all people, say that the hobby is getting expensive. Every day is more expensive, and they are correct in some point. We spoke with some manufacturers, and they say, "Oh, our product is quality, and quality is expensive." And well, they are correct in some form. But you, as a young man, do you really think this is really going crazy? That, oh my God, it's 300, 400, 500. Every year is more expensive. Well, right now we have the shipping problem and all that, but how do you see, is this temporary, or is it still affordable for my son? My son is like 10 years, he's his beginning in the hobby. How do you see that? And before you answer, let me translate the questions before.
Yeah, go ahead.
Martín, ¿me ayudas? Lo que estaba diciendo, que lo que le atrae es la tecnología, ¿no?
Correcto.
Cada vez ve adelantos, ¿no? Adelantos es lo que está viendo.
Sí, él vio, digamos, él pertenece a esta nueva generación donde el ferromodelismo se ha vuelto más tecnológico y nos pone un ejemplo clave, que es la acción de las impresoras 3D. O sea, ha generado que gente que quisiera ciertas partes específicas para el hobby, o un kit o algo que no se fabrica, lo puede hacer a través de la computadora. Y bien, Daniel destaca que esto es para él lo normal, digamos, programar en una computadora e imprimir en 3D. Algo que para nuestra generación es robótica pura, para ellos es natural. O sea, sí, realmente es eso, y creo que está cambiando la dinámica. Y déjame agregarle, y le digo a Daniel, Daniel, I agree with you. Like I say, the 3D is what is coming, is is the new generation. You are part of a new world. Like technology is normal, is the new normal, let's say. And what also I see is the change. People like me or Eduardo, we always depend in for some parts, maybe somebody with a lot of skills to handcraft a little part. Now, if you are okay with the computer, you can go and print it. Like I say, if you adapt to this new world, I say for you it's more easy to be more precise. Like for us, maybe we waited for 1 year for one person to have some time to do one little part, because we didn't have the skill to sculpt. So yes, totally agree with you. And I say I'm very happy for your generation now. You can achieve better than us in parts. Yeah.
Se me olvidó, no sé si traduje al español, le hice la pregunta de si realmente ve muy caro el hobby, que cuál era su punto de vista, si realmente está siendo muy caro o todavía es algo
no dejaste contestar.
¿Verdad? No, pero es que le dije que después, pero no me acuerdo si lo dije en español.
No, lo dijiste en español, pero no, sí. O sea,
no, pero no en inglés. Sí que conteste, sí, pero bueno, me había quedado la duda. Daniel, go ahead with it. Remember that I asked about the expensive, about the hobby.
Yes.
What is your point of view?
My point of view is in many different ways. I'm maybe on this side, that side. I don't really want to try to sides. I just think that maybe the inflation of prices is just, again, because technology being put in. Because you got to think, all this stuff that they're making is almost like high quality products that they're just not, making a cheap 1, 2, 3 and it's done. They're like soundtracks, and they're making their decoders. They have done a video of tours of their facility, and George Bogatak over at Soundtracks, who's the one tech support gentleman, he has shown the process of how extensive they go through the manufacturing of making the decoders, testing them, and then going through other rigorous, tests, and then to make sure that they're packaged, sealed, ready to go for the customer. But I just think it's the amount of pieces and parts that they got to put on, and I just think the combination of everything put on those circuit boards and the decoders does cost a company a lot of money to make.
Ya, totalmente de acuerdo. Puso el ejemplo de Soundtracks y habló de George, que lo tuvimos ya en el programa, el proceso. Y quisiera agregarte, ahorita le comentamos a Daniel, estuvo con nosotros de Scale Trend Sean, y cuánto sale el tooling, el costo de hacer como la que tienes ahí atrás, Martín, como ese prototipo se me fue el nombre, pero
la turbina.
Es mucha calidad de turbina, exacto. Las de turbina son de calidad de museo y se necesitan mucho detalle, y ese detalle cuesta. Entonces creo que Daniel lo que toma es eso, ¿no? Realmente.
Y la tecnología, como yo estoy de acuerdo con Daniel y se lo voy a decir, es que la tecnología de los modelos de hoy en día nada que ver con los de hace 20 años. O sea, LEDs, sonido, motores, todo ha cambiado. Todo ha cambiado. O sea, pasa en la evolución. Los autos lo vemos. No vas a comprar un auto hace 20 años con uno actual. O sea, todo ha cambiado y obviamente encarece. Y también hay un proceso natural de inflación. O sea, eso es normal en la historia de la humanidad, o sea, o del capitalismo, mejor dicho. O sea, eso sí. es imparable. O sea, realmente es así. Daniel, I was saying, like, I 100% agree with you. Like I said, the quality of the products we have these days is totally different as 20 years ago. So you used to have a blue box alarm, and you compare with a Broadway Limited or a Scale Train product. There are two different things. It's impossible to think that the same product, in the evolution, and also plus the inflation, plus the technology, plus the LEDs, the new motors, and anything you will like. So it's impossible to compare the two worlds. So, and shipping is another thing, but again, this is a global war, and it's no more cheap labor anymore. Thank God for that. Like I say, used to be people working for 50 cents, and now almost everyone deserves to have the same salary. So and that's great in a way. But yeah, somebody needs to pay for that, and yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
Okay. Right.
Tengo otra pregunta que le voy a hacer a Daniel. Hemos platicado que hay muchas facetas en el ferromodelismo: escenografía, decoders, carpintería, electrónica. ¿Cuál es la que más le gusta y por qué? Daniel, I'm talking that something that I like about Model Railroad is that you have different stage. You could be in the wood, it could be scenery, balas, decoders, DCC, and many other things that you can learn from the hobby. What is your favorite and why?
Well, I think I already spilled the beans on that one just about 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, I know.
Just,
I know, but
I would have to. I would have to say it's all the electrical work, like I had said earlier, DCC. And the reason why, another very good question. I got to summarize this because there's a lot of information I could say, but I know we only got a limited amount of time. But what I like to say is, starting off the bat, about 5 years ago or so is when I started doing my own DCC installs, because we had moved into our new house 3 years prior to that. And so I was able to build the new layout of 5x10 that I have, but the one that you guys have seen recently, that is now my third layout in my lifetime. So playing around with an Athearn, Blue Box GP38, I was doing research how to do a basic 9-pin Digitrax 2-function DCC installation hardwire. And then I stepped into that Christmas afterwards. That was that summer in 2013, 2014, I think. Then I did my first Soundtrax install with an old Soundtrax Tsunami 1 plug-in play decoder, the GN1000 they had available for Athearn Genesis models at the time. That was just the basic, you take the light board off the Genesis, and those two upper clips that would be on top of the motor, you'd be able to pop that GN1000 from factory right on top of the motor, rewire everything back up, lights, speaker, all that other stuff. And doing a lot of electrical work, and my full-time job is being a mechanic. Not only are we fixing stuff, we are doing electrical work on vehicles, trailers, etc. But I just find the niche that being a technology and kind of doing electrical and soldering work, I just feel that that's my forte in the hobby, because I've already had many guys around here ask me to do locomotives for him here, a couple of my friends actually, and our friend Campbell Rice on the podcast, he had me tackle a real extensive challenge of trying to get some ditch lights to work that wasn't working. So he's like, here's a locomotive, here's a computer module, because he's got the Rare Pro system, it's its own two-way direct radio with their board in the locomotive, but it doesn't come off like Digitrax NCE, it doesn't come off track signal voltage. So I toyed around with it, did some programming to it on the computer, and I was finally able to take a multimeter and do some like electrical diagnostic to see if there was power going through those leads. So my couple years of being an electrician or a mechanic, whatever you want to put me as, kind of paid off there in that aspect. So I thought, if I can do this and figure all this electrical stuff out, or a glitch maybe, this is kind of fun, because it's a challenging aspect of the hobby. And like I said before, with the new technology, it's like every 2 years or so, there's always something new coming out by a company. So it's a matter of when it's released, I usually glance at the manual, kind of read over, summarize what I got going on. And a buddy of mine, or a gentleman I have done work for here in the area, he had just doesn't understand it or just wanted help getting it set up. And then he got the new Digitrax throttle that just came out recently, and not even having one myself, I was able to go over there and help him in 20 minutes, get him set up. He was ready to go. So.
Yeah,
perfecto. Totalmente, ahorita que traduzcas de acuerdo a lo que nos platicaba antes. Si quieres traduce tú, pero...
Bueno, está bien. Es lo que dice, apoya totalmente obviamente la tecnología es lo que más le gusta de todo, y especialmente nos amplió lo que hace él con instalaciones de decoders y la electrónica, y que le gustan mucho los challenges o digamos los retos para solucionar problemas de instalación de decoder, y que él empezó con una simple locomotora Blue Box de Athearn, y que bueno, eso lo fue llevando y aprendiendo más su actual profesión, mecánico electricista, lo pone como que es lo que más le gusta. También nos dijo que, bueno, amigos le piden ayuda y les encanta ayudarlos con instalación de decoders. Le voy a decir lo que yo pienso también de esto, y a su vez lo que pienso de los modelos de escala N, que hoy en día ya son todos microboards. Es increíble.
Con humo.
Y humo también, o sea, cómo está avanzando la tecnología. Daniel, again, we agree 100% on what you say. I think the decoder part is amazing, and the evolution of the decoders. I'm very lucky to have a little budget, and I can do two scales. I'm doing HO and scale. My layout is very weird. I have the two scales in one layout, so it is kind of cool. And that gives me, like the opportunity to see both scales and the evolution of N scale, especially with sound, the new speakers, the new decoder. It is amazing. Like really, today, the other day, I had a little noise in a little Kato locomotive in N scale, and just opened up was the Amtrak P42, and there's no wires, no one single wire. It's just something like it's called, and the Japanese, they have this technology like even it's not screws, so it's only just you need to press here, and lift everything, and it's not one screw, it's not one wire. The speaker is even, like say, smaller than a mobile phone today. It is amazing the way. So I'm guessing when that gets into very soon an HO scale, I think we need to learn something else on wires. Very fast, but it is Japanese are amazing too.
Así es. Lo que comparte Martín, sí, la tecnología de ahora es increíble, todo más chiquito, sin cables, se abre y ahí está todo. Y ahorita, sí, exacto, y ahorita me acuerdo, Daniel nos comentó que tiene 21 años. Ahorita me dices tú, Martín, pero yo a los 21 años me la pasaba, en México le llamamos el antro, o la discoteca, en el baile, fiesta, cine, bueno, mujeres no, ojalá y fuera así, pero me la pasaba en el relajo con personas de mi edad. Y como que ya hasta después me cayó el 20 con el hobby, pero muy, muy, muy después. Y la pregunta para Daniel sería ¿cómo convive con las personas de su edad y el hobby? Porque el programa la mayoría creo que le doblan la edad. Entonces para saber si sus amigos comparten lo mismo. Daniel, I'm just talking that when I was 20, early 20, I used to be in the theater, in the movies, at the disco, getting drunk and normal life. And the hobby.
I was playing soccer. Okay, I wasn't getting right. So sorry.
Sometimes I used to play soccer. Yeah. But
I wanted to be
in the show.
Player, so.
Yeah, that's great. But what we saw in the show, that perhaps the people that you share the hobby is twice of your age, or even more. And
on average.
On average.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, that is true. On average, that is a little more. How do you share with your fellows in the same age? Do you still share the hobby with your friends of 24, 25, or 19? Do they share the same passion, or you only go to the show and stay there, the passion in the show?
Well, I'm actually passionate both in the show and off the camera, and also off the set of What's Neat. I'm just passionate, and everyone that likes trains, no matter what their age is, I try to just relate to what they're trying to say about what they like in the hobby. In fact, a good family friend of ours from church, they've got like an 8-year-old son that is enthusiastic about trains, and yet he's starting to really grow up because we've known him now for about 2 years. So I mean, I'm there every time he comes over. I'm always, hey, why don't I bring? Let me show you what I got working on, and and now going on to the older gentlemen, those that are 50 and older. I don't know. I just feel like I can also learn from them because they are the ones who have been through the hobby from way back when, 20, 30, 40 years ago, to where everything was all like done by hand. There was none of this. Yeah. Box cars already made, all the details there. Let's say the grab irons, the step ladders, and all that. Old blue box like Ken, Mike, and the rest of the gentlemen that I'm with on the show, they have all told me to say, man, you got it easy. And I asked them, what do you mean? And Mike explained to me, yes, Mike, buddy. He also wanted to say hi to your son and hi to you guys, too.
Yeah, love it. Thank you very much.
He was one to kind of tell me to say, look, back in my day, it took him like maybe 2 weeks to perfect auto rack or something like that. Or, I mean, he still does it, but he just says back then, they were part of the generation that they had to do everything. They had to research this stuff, go out, take photos. They just didn't have a simple on the phone, Google it, 5 seconds, the picture's there. bam, time to go model.
Yeah.
So,
Daniel, on that point, I want to add is like okay, today we have more tools, we have more easy to do the research, but we have less time too. We are busy with technology and
working.
and making, and when I was your age, before, because I have my gap between, let's say, 15 to 30 without the hobby. I had a lot of time to sit there and trying to make a little piece. even I fail all the time, but I see it's like a compensation. Like I say, in the people like Mike, I don't know, he was in our show 6 months ago, and he's an amazing person. Yeah, he had more time, and he carries that into the present time. You have easy research, easy access to Sims, but less time to put everything together. So I think in a way we are at the same level, but it looks easier for us, difficult for them, but I think Mike thinks the other way. So,
Oye, y something, algo que quiero agregar, antes que se me olvide. Daniel mencionó algo muy importante: aprender de nuestros mayores.
Of course, yes.
Incluso Martín y yo tenemos mayores o amigos de la edad. Creo que es algo que se tiene que hacer con respeto. Muchas veces no apreciamos estar con personas que nos lleven 20, 30 años, pero tienen mayor experiencia, y hay muchos dichos, ¿no?, que deben saber más por el tiempo que llevan. Entonces creo que eso es algo importante, y admiro que Daniel lo haga, que aprenda de sus mayores y comparte el hobby con niños de 8 años como en alguien de 50, 60 años. Entonces creo que eso es importante para las personas que nos vean, que son jóvenes. Aprendan de los grandes, pidan consejo, y eso es lo más importante. No les dé miedo preguntar cuando estén jóvenes. Si quieres te lo traduces tú para Martín.
Sí, y agrego a eso en todos los aspectos de la vida. O sea, yo siempre digo, las culturas aborígenes y originales, o pueblos originales de cada nación, tenían esa cultura del aprender de los mayores, sentarse con los mayores y aprender de ellos. Eso es algo que se ha perdido un poco, pero bueno, gente como Daniel, evidentemente, en el hobby lo sigue haciendo. Daniel, we were talking about, and make an example of what you say, like learning from the elders or from the people, they have more experience in the hobby. And we say, like I say, that's a good culture, sit with the people. They come with a lot of experience, and sharing that time and listening to them, and taking that on board. That shows, how great person you are, and giving them the time and showing them respect. So really, it's a very good example. Very good example. So we love that thing too.
Sí.
Eduardo, quiero aprovechar y hacer un link.
Exactly.
Él mencionó con el tema de Mike and el show con Ken y todo eso. Quiero hacer un link y preguntarle qué se siente ser parte de ese gran circo que se nota que es fenomenal. Okay?
Sí.
Daniel, I want to link, you mentioned, like I say, your time you spent it in the show, Ken shows, with Mike and other people. By the way, we're chasing Ken, and he promised to be with us. And if you see him next time, say, I sent few emails. He has my email, Eduardo's contact. We need him in the show because he's, a super good person to have. So please, when you see him next time, say, the crazy Spanish are chasing him. So we're waiting to have a good chance.
Right. Yeah. No, I'll tell him that.
He knows. He has my messenger, so everything. So just wait.
Me gustó eso de crazy Spanish, eh.
Yeah, we are the crazy Spanish.
Van a decir crazy Spanish.
Tell us about I call that great circus in a good way. Like we watch that show, let's say, people enjoying, laughing, having great time. What's for you? What you feel to be part? And I think it's a pleasure. It's an honor sometimes, I guess. And tell us to be involved in this great show you're doing with the other guys.
All right. So if I can maybe back up to when we started this whole thing. Actually, at the time, Chris Palomares was employed with After Model Trains. That he was the one that kind of started doing this, and then of course Ken rolled with it, and we were able to build it up from there. And going back a little bit, when I was 11 years old, that's when I first met Ken. And he, when I met him, going to his house for the first time, I saw the garden train, going in the back. I'm like, oh man, that's pretty cool. 11-year-old me, excited as I was, and I stepped through the basement door, and it's like, wow, what is? And I started rambling off, Bachman trains, MTH. That's just what he has told me as I grew up. So getting to know him through the years, and then when I was 17, so I think it was 2017 in that summer, it was a day before I left on my church's mission trip. That Saturday night we were there, and Chris had looked at me and said, hey, Dano, come on, sit on the table. We're going to do this. And he explained to me what we were doing. And I'm like, I don't know, Chris. I don't know. He's just like, what's there to worry about? I'm like, I don't want to say it. He's like, just sit down, shut up, talk trains. We'll roll with it. Okay.
Yeah. You mean Chris, Chris Palomares?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Chris from Athens. And yeah, and then we sat down, got through it, 30 minutes, and then I looked at him, and then he kind of looked at me, and Ken looked at me, and just jaw dropped like, okay, you're going to be on this for however long we do it.
Yeah.
And bam, there now it has now become a traditional thing. I do miss kind of the old school before we started doing this podcast, just the general Saturday nights. I mean, not saying that we just don't want to hang out, but it's just like nowadays it's actually, instead of kind of, how do I want to explain this? Showing off kind of our models and just having fun, relaxing. It's almost like, because it's his job that he's got to produce these shows now, that it's kind of, okay, we got to get cracking on this. What's show notes? Who's on camera? Dano, you run a camera? Who's on the set? What do we got to talk about? That sort of thing. But I think there is still some fun and enjoyment that when I come home from work on those Saturdays that I work, or I just have a hard day on Saturday, I can go over there in the evening, relax, talk trains with Mike, Josh, the rest of the guys that are on crew, and then they get to talk to Ken, see how his week was going and what projects he's got lined up for the What's Neat shows. So I honestly think that it's a thrill that I'm able to be on this, and I have developed almost my own fan base in some way. But every time I went to a show like the RPM meet we had this past summer, of course, and some of the ladies in model railroading, we're starting to get those around a little bit more now, that they were like, oh, hey, I see you on What's Neat. And it's, a quick little, hey, thanks for watching, and try to strike a conversation with all the viewers. See what because a lot of times I've talked to some of the viewers, and they have offered me suggestions, tips, and a couple of them I made friends with, and I'm still chatting with over online on Facebook and stuff like that. And a couple gentlemen that I met a couple years ago from Michigan that went to this last RPM meet were looking at me, and they were talking to me nonstop about DCC and all that, and I was, giving them my spiel on it. And
that's great. Daniel, please allow us to
it's a fun to help produce this.
Yeah. So. ¿Traduces un poco, Martín?
Sí. Sí, lo que le habíamos preguntado es sobre cómo se siente con hacer el show de Ken Patterson, y nos explicó que eso empezó hace 4 años, que tuvo la suerte de conocer a Chris Palomares, que es una persona que trabaja en Adler. Esa es otra persona que podríamos ver si lo podemos traer al show.
Pero dijo que desde los 11 fue la primera vez que llegó a su casa y
no sé.
Dijo a los 11 años.
Sí. No, sorry, you say 17 or 11 years old?
No, the first time you said 11 when you met Ken, is that correct?
That is correct. Yep.
Sí,
okay, sorry.
A los 11 que lo conocí. Sí. Perdón, pero eso yo creo que es el sueño incluso de nosotros cuarentones, llegar a la casa de Ken y ver el tren que tiene afuera que hoy ya no quiere quitar, pero Daniel llegó a los 11 años y luego, como dices, a los 17 fue cuando hizo su primer segmento.
Sí, perdón, me perdí ahí.
Con Chris Palomares, que antes era el de Atron y ahorita no sé dónde anda.
Claro. Gracias por la corrección. Entonces, lo que decía que obviamente el show lo invitaron a sentarse por primera vez y estaba muy nervioso y se quería ir de ahí porque no se sentía cómodo, pero las otras personas le dijeron que se siente, que disfrute, que van a hablar de trenes y que lo único que tenía que hacer es fluir con el programa y que bueno, que una vez que empezaba estaba como atado y no se podía ir, o sea que esa fue la primera experiencia. Y que después, bueno, que sí, que se integró al grupo y que si bien hoy en día Ken lo produce como un programa, como si fuera un trabajo, él lo que sigue sintiendo que existe esa camaradería y esa relación y para él, especialmente a veces cuando vuelve de un trabajo cansado disfruta de juntarse y relajarse y hablar de trenes. Que realmente aprecio.
Alguien dijo ferromodelismo es familia, no me acuerdo si fue Ken Silvestri o alguien de las frases famosas del año pasado, pero creo que Daniel explicó esto muy bien, que cuando se siente, incluso aunque sea de trabajo, pues llegan y platican de trenes, corren trenes y están conviviendo. Entonces creo que eso lleva a un éxito del show, que no nada más sí es un trabajo, pero es compartir con amigos.
Sí, sí. Y lo otro que quiero destacar, que la integración de las mujeres al hobby, que eso lo quiero decir también a Daniel. Daniel, you say something very good about the Ken show. It's like the integration of women into the hobby. Like the wife appear sometimes, and that's open new doors for more people to be part of the hobby. So that's great too.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
Algo que le quería preguntar ahorita que estábamos hablando de los layouts, les vamos a dejar el link para que vean un pequeño recorrido del layout de Daniel, y está muy enfocado a operaciones. Más adelante vamos a tener otro programa donde vamos a hablar exclusivamente qué es una operación. Digo, a lo mejor muchos ya sabemos, pero lo vamos a explicar. Ya tengo a la persona perfecta, luego te platico más. Increíble.
Excelente.
Porque
Excelente.
aparte él trabaja en el tren y tiene su maqueta y opera. Lo que vi que Daniel tiene una mezcla más cargada de operaciones, y ahorita le voy a preguntar por qué y que nos explique un poquito cómo lo está haciendo. Okay, Daniel, we're talking that usually you have operations in the layout. Other people, they only just run trains and in a circle, a big circle, a bone or something.
Right.
And I said that I saw your layout, your basement, your actual layout, and you have a yard and you have some kind of facilities, and you show that you have some carts to operate the layout. So obviously you love operations. And the question is, when you design this new layout, is mainly for operations, or you just want to sit in the middle and watch the trains go around, or what is the passion? Operations, point to point, or what is your point of view? What is your recommendation for young people?
Well,
I know it's too much question.
It's going to be a mix of just both. I haven't actually got the operation set in stone because my layout isn't like big enough to have a whole bunch of guys, and plus it's my parents' house. I'm still living with them. It's in the basement. But I would have to say that it's both. I like the enjoyment of just watching trains run in a circle and maybe just have them running. It's just the sound of the wheels going across the rails. So if I come home, maybe have a bad day in the office, going downstairs, putting on the radio, and just going to work on some projects, debrief, or just sit in the middle of my layout. And I've had that happen a couple times, that I would just take beverage downstairs, sit in the middle of it, and just watch the trains run and just kind of depress, relax, and take deep breaths to say, all right, the day's done. Time to just relax, work on my trains.
Nice.
Operations. Now, that is going to be a major, not obstacle, but I have been a part of a group to where there's a whole bunch of gentlemen around the St. Louis area, about 40 plus, but because of COVID, unfortunately, we're not hosting any sessions at the layouts that are in the gentlemen's houses and whatever around the area. But I got involved with that. Funny story on that. My father, who is a retired fireman, he had a friend of his that was also a fireman that apparently liked trains. And so we're over at Ken's house one day, and he brings up the gentleman's name. And my dad's like, hey, I know who that is. Went over to his house, and sure enough, his whole basement, he operates 1990s St. Louis area railroads, and he's got the full operations, cards, waybills, signal system. He's got that up and running, and it's the St. Louis Junction Railroad Company. He was featured on a Model Railroader magazine article. I have it downstairs, but of course, I don't want to be walking through. I would try to look it up maybe online. I don't know what month he was featured in. Rail Model Craftsman, I also think, did an interview or a magazine article with him too. And there was a bunch of other guys that I met through that ops group that we'd always operate on Tuesday nights. So it'd be around 6:30, 6:15. Guys, there would be two hosts of two different layouts. So the one layout will have a certain number of slots. You sign up on an email list that the guy whose name's Gary, who's the one that is responsible for sending out the email rosters, and he asks around. It's like twice a month, 2 Tuesdays a month, that there's a rotation on a round robin. So it's whoever wants to sign up, just say, okay, yeah, I'll do it. And then when you go to the layout, you kind of want to show up there early, get a glance for it. If it's a new layout, maybe get a tour of it by the owner. And now this gentleman with St. Louis Junction Railroad Company, I can remember, just being 12, 13 years old. Yes, and I started operating 12 and 13 years old, so I've been a part of the group of guys for so long. When a couple of them met me, and as I got older, when I started getting on the show, and a couple of them were like, well, doggone, you're so young. I used to remember when you were this tall, and now all of a sudden you're on Ken's show. Mm-hmm. You're actually, exposing, your youth. Like, my perspective of the hobby, like we had discussed here at the beginning of this show we're doing right now. So I'm there in the layout, and we're drawing like cards, right? There's 13 slots at the guy's house. He's got a massive layout. Dispatcher, a couple of yard jobs, run through freights, and 2 yard masters, stuff like that. So all of a sudden he said, all right, who's got the ace? And that was the first card up. And I'm like, I'm the only young guy in the room. What are these old guys going to think? Yeah. And then everyone looks, and John's like, Daniel? I'm like, yeah, John, you got the ace, right? Yep, right here. Which one do you want to take? Give me something hard. He says, oh, we'll give a young guy a challenge then. So he hands me a local yard job, the East St. Louis grain elevator job, which when you're in operations on a local, to whereas you can't see the cars, like numbers barely behind the grain elevator or whatever, and there's so many colorful cars around, it just screws with your brain. It becomes a challenge and almost a jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, déjame traducir un poco. Let me translate.
Sí.
Le preguntamos un poquito a Daniel de su layout y la parte de operaciones, y en la parte final nos estaba comentando de una persona que su papá era bombero y conocía a alguien del ferromodelismo, y resultó que era conocido su papá. Total, lo invitaron y encontró que su basement tiene 2 layouts, nos está platicando, y creo que nos iba a pasar. Le voy a preguntar, porque dice que ya ha salido hasta en alguna revista y un video. Entonces, le voy a pedir el link para ponerlo aquí en el video, para que podamos ver eso. Pero el punto que usted nos está diciendo, que es, ya sabe, creo que es un layout con todo lo que hemos deseado: señales, luces, cambios, todo automático, 2 yards, y que dice, ahorita lo que nos estaba a punto de contar, su experiencia de, él era el más joven de todos los que estaban ahí, y le preguntan, a ver, ¿quién va a empezar? Y dijo Daniel, no, yo empiezo, y que es un poco de pues que te impacta, ¿no? Estar en un layout tan grande con tantos y empezar. Sí. Pero
lo
entonces,
difícil que dijo.
Lo difícil. Ahorita le voy a decir que continúe, pero un poquito para dar el contexto a los demás.
Sí, y lo otro que también cabe destacar es lo que dijo al principio, que en su layout, vos le preguntaste qué disfruta más, si las operaciones o ver correr trenes, y dijo que una de las cosas que... Él le gustan las 2 cosas, obviamente, y que él cuando viene también cansado de trabajar, le gusta tomar una bebida y se va al sótano, se sienta en medio de los trenes, y el ruido de los trenes corriendo, de las ruedas en el click-clack famoso, lo relaja, y eso lo hace disfrutar de la tarde. Así que bueno.
Okay, then we just translate we try to translate what you said, and we well, you are going to talk about this experience that you were the younger and it was your turn, and then I interrupt to translate. Can you continue with the history, because I never been in operations, and I'm looking to go.
And I want to say to Daniel that's a good scene of a country like where he lives, to have this chance to go different layouts and operations. Like for you or for me, like say my next layout is around 250 miles from my home, so 400 km. So like I say, if I need to go to operations, and I have the same problem.
Oh wow! Dang, that's a long mile.
That's Australia. Australia, you have a group of people in Sydney, like they meet. Then you have a group in Canberra, and then you have a group in Melbourne, and then in the middle, we are the rest. Regional Australia, like you need to travel a lot. So like I say, that's nice. And as I say, my layout is small or medium size, and I can receive people, but I don't have people around. That's a problem.
My problem is that we don't have big layouts in Mexico to operate.
Gotcha.
That's good. Like I
Okay.
say, you have that opportunity, and to get involved, and that's great. And and as you say, that is very nice. What you tell, like, how they give you that job to run the grain elevator. That could be, like I say, scary, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, and especially it's a lot of
I
people
guess, like you said,
you.
right. So, anyways, going on, kind of to wrap that up, that aspect of it. Operations, I'm starting to get into it. I had one of the guys that come over and set up my car cards, and again, I'm still trying to get my layout sort of like finished. And well, just tonight, I discovered a wiring problem that I'm probably going to have to rerun my wiring all over again and try to clean it all up, because I'm having an issue with one of my circuit breakers. Because I tried to rewire one of my Digitrax booster units, or the only booster I've got that run the engine facility and to run my inside track, because I got 3 tracks around, but I got 2 main lines. That was all running off the command station, and the booster was only operating on the engine facility. So until I get all that wiring resolved, no more trains to run until I can get that wiring done. But after I get that done, my plan is to organize everything and try to make up Google Sheets, Google Docs, online formats, or Microsoft Word, that I can format all the cars, all locomotives, and then try to make up places, destinations, and then create like a timetable sort of, so I can try to at least maybe do a session myself for 2.5, maybe an hour and a half to trial, and do like a local job, or maybe run some through freights and stop at the signals and wait for like 15 minutes or something like that before they could depart again, maybe for a quick crew change, stuff like that. So I'm just still experimenting one-on-one with the operations, but.
Perfect. Good. Daniel, we're going to have perhaps, I don't know, 1 or 2 months, some show with operations shows in small layouts. We have a friend who actually works in Ferrosur, I think so. He's part of Ferromex. And he has a small layout, perhaps 8x4, and he divides the layout in 2. And he operates in the small layout, and he told me that he can spend like 4 hours, 6 hours, and he has the cars and all the experience. And I say, okay, you need to share this with the people in Mexico, because how to operate in a small layout. And he told me, yes, I can spend like 6 hours because I have 2 shifts, the early morning and then the second turn. And he used all the real experience in the work and translate to the hobby. So when we're doing the show, even if it's in Spanish, I will try to send the link, because I think this is amazing, because not all the people have the opportunity to run big layouts with yard and 4 or 5 people at the same time, and the big system. We usually have small layouts in Mexico, for example, and perhaps in Latin America. And let me translate. Okay.
Ok, traducí y después le quiero hacer una pregunta, que hacerle un link.
Okay. Le estaba diciendo a Daniel que en uno de los programas que viene vamos a hacer una explicación de operaciones en layouts pequeños de 8x4, de tablones de 1.20 por 2.44. Una persona que actualmente trabaja en Ferrosur y aplica todo lo que conoce en su pequeño layout que dividió en 2, y me dice que puede pasar 2 horas en un turno y hace varios turnos. Entonces, para las personas que tenemos poco espacio, pocos recursos, hacer esto divertido y aprender, creo que es algo muy importante. Y le estaba diciendo a Daniel que aunque sea el show en español, se lo voy a compartir, porque creo que es algo importante, aprender a hacer operaciones y estar 4 o 5 horas tú solo en tu cuarto, y a lo mejor con tu hijo, lo que sea, pero bueno, es parte de lo que le comentaba a Daniel. Perdón, Martín, sí, adelante.
Sí, sí, yo le quiero preguntar, él dijo que vive cerca del main line de UP. Quiero preguntarle, o sea, ¿cómo lo ayuda estar cerca del prototipo? Para nosotros, o para mí, imposible imaginar ver esas bestias pasar y todo eso. Quiero saber cómo lo ayuda eso en el hobby y hacer eso en su layout, ¿no? Daniel, I have a question for you. Is, for me, this is my personal experience. for me, it's very hard sometimes to imagine, the real world, like the Union Pacific Main Line or other big railroad in the US. We try to replicate in our layouts. My question to you is,
Right.
how much helped you to live so close to the real world or to the prototypes, let's say, and that information you can extract and put in your layout? How much that helped? Let's say, how easy for you is to see one thing and put it there, in your layout? What you think about that? Makes your life easier to imagine that and then have it in your head and apply it into the layout?
I would have to say that I'm not much just doing into prototype scenery at all. I just have something with whatever I envision in my head. I try it,
Okay.
and that's what I did with this new layout that I got now. There is, like I said, Union Pacific, there's Burlington Northern Santa Fe, there's all the kinds of railroads. There's a local railroad, Terminal Rail Association, that guys have tried to model, but they've like condensed it down into a model scale. They haven't gone the whole 1 mile, like 1-to-1 proportion to where it's the exact miles, because that'd be a long basement. If it's modeled. In fact, I know one gentleman, part of the ops group, who's over in Valley Park, Missouri, that he models the 1960s, late 50s, early 60s Frisco, before it became the Burlington Northern. But we got the one station in Webster Groves that he has modeled to the T. And the layout is in a small room, I think 15 by 20, but it's double deck, maybe triple deck with a staging yard. But he had modeled the accurate station as it was back then in the 50s, before the Frisco turned into Burlington Northern and BNSF was merged. So
wow. Do you know, Daniel, and then I translate Eduardo, do you hear the name John Gray in Union Pacific model? You hear about him?
John Gray?
Yes.
I have heard of him. I watched him in Tracks Ahead, the old Kalmbach media show. They actually had him in an interview.
And Alan Keller videotapes for us, with VHS at that time. So Alan Keller was a person in the US doing the best layouts in the United States. Like he did a collection of 50, and Alan Keller did an amazing. I'm sure if you mentioned him to Ken Patterson, he for sure he knows. So I want to make a little story in English first, Eduardo, and then I translate for our people. So I had the chance some time ago. I used to collect model brass trains, and overland. John Gray is a person with a good wallet, let's say, very good wallet, and he used to. I think he's still working in an area of Los Angeles, and he has a company who makes is a contractor of the Union Pacific. He used to work in the Union Pacific, and he was a director of the Union Pacific, and even. He told me a story like one of the car I have from Overland was his own personal car to travel when he was making business in the UP. So, making fast the story, he created almost the perfect layout. He employed, I think, 5 people to create the layout and run the layout for him. So when he come back from work, he can play in the layout, and the layout was perfect. Before DCC, we're talking before, so everything he applied a lot. And he designed I think was by Wyoming, and I think was one of the biggest UP rails. And he modeled at the end of the 50s, 60s. So he has from the big boys to the E9s, E8s, and all the early all
the
in
big
brass.
motive power.
Yeah, he only condition was anything running was brass. And sadly, he got an anti-work with the wife, and the wife decided to take kind of revenge all the trains away, and he contacted me from the US because he knew from a friend I was selling some of the overland models, and he said, okay, you can hold for a second, and I will see you soon. And he traveled from the United States to my place in Australia when I used to live in a more remote Australia. I live in the NT, like it's the top of Australia in the middle of nowhere, so it's only 3 people and 150 crocodiles. There's nothing else. and he took
That's a lot.
a plane, came to see me. Even he paid me money in advance, so I don't sell the trains, and come here and I share a weekend with him, and he told me the whole story and then everything. So if you want to find a story about people who invest a lot of money to create the perfect layout, yeah, check with Ken. If not, look, Alan Keller collection. Look that name, John Grace, and you will see if you love UP, you love him. So yeah, so I'm sharing that to you, and now I want to translate to the people. So le estaba diciendo, Daniel dijo que obviamente dijimos que el tema de reproducir un layout es muy difícil a escala, ¿no? Obviamente una milla, 1 kilómetro es muy difícil de llevar a un layout y uno tiende obviamente a comprimir el layout. Y yo le agregué que tuve el placer que hay muy poca gente que puede tratar de imitar eso. Y yo tuve la suerte de conocer a una persona que se llama John Gray, que era es una persona fanática de Union Pacific, que empleó 3 personas para crear el layout perfecto, lo más posible a escala. También, eso no se lo dije a él, él viajó y llevó a esa gente al lugar donde estaba modelando para levantar tierra del lugar para que la tierra sea igual, los colores sean igual. O sea, tú estás hablando de la perfección de la perfección.
Sí, y de eso hemos platicado mucho, que ese sentimiento se da mucho en Estados Unidos, que te dice, quiero modelar el día 15 de noviembre de 1966.
Exacto.
O sea, es un punto que creo no compartimos, también Daniel lo dijo que él no es tan prototípico, pero no compartimos ese detalle, pero de que existen personas que hasta el día quieren modelar.
Sí, y John era una persona pudiente, o sea, si le gustaba, cada uno con su dinero, como siempre decimos acá, si te alcanza el dinero y te gusta, ¿por qué no?
Adelante.
Mientras no molestes al resto. Y era una persona es una persona que comparte. Y bueno, tenía 2 reglas de oro, una que tenía que ser prototípico, él no aceptaba formaciones que no fueran allá en corrido, y no aceptaba otra cosa que modelos de bronce. Y te estoy hablando de colección de millones de dólares, ¿eh? Yo voy a tener millones de dólares. Y tengo el Excel con los modelos que él compartió conmigo. O sea, y bueno, eso era la anécdota que quería compartir, que existe esas personas y si bien uno tenga todo el poder del mundo, no se puede replicar el prototipo.
Así es. Oye, y ahorita que mencionamos la parte prototípica y el dinero que gastas cuando lo tienes, me gustaría pedir el consejo de Daniel. Si muchas veces nos han preguntado esto, ¿qué compro? ¿Cómo empiezo? ¿Qué hago?
Sí.
Y más en Estados Unidos, cuando llegas a ver tus layouts tan grandes, con tanto dinero, yo creo que se espantan más, no saben ni por dónde empezar. ¿Qué le diría un joven a un joven? Daniel, we're talking that when young people ask Martin or to me, what should I buy? Should I buy a starter set, Bagman, Athearn? Should I go DC, DCC? Obviously, we gave our opinion and perhaps something easy for these people. But if they ask you, someone between 50 or 20, what would you say? What is an advice to the young people to start in the hobby?
Well, for one, I would say if you're brand new, start off small, go with a simple starter set, maybe about 50, 60 bucks. DC power pack, locomotive, couple cars. Bachmann, that's a great way to get started. Athearn makes some pretty decent sets too. And that's how I got started. I was 6 years old, and it was at Christmas that there was that big box there in the corner of our other house we were in before we moved into this one. That my parents were like, don't open that. And of course, I go to rip it open, and there it is, an Athearn train set, a CSX locomotive, the 3 cars, caboose, loop of track, the power pack, just get me started. Then in addition, later on, I got an extra Bachmann steam locomotive that made smoke. And then I've got an extra track pack that was made by Kalmbach Media. It was a how-to build your first 4x8. Michael Gross was the one hosting, and it's back in, I think, the early 2000s, maybe late 90s, something like that. But it was a whole step-by-step bench work, foam board, track laying, wiring, other tips, techniques, DC, DCC, scenery, all that to build the first 4x8. So I would definitely say someone starting out, just start off small, work your way up, visit your local hobby shop, read online, look up the YouTube videos because there's several how-tos, how to get started in the hobby, the basics, DC, DCC, basics on scenery, track work, etc.
Perfecto. Creo que lo hemos platicado varias veces. Empezar pequeño. Si puedes comprarte un set nuevo. Creo que por ahí Joe Fugate decía think big, build small. O sea, como que piensa en grande, construye pequeño.
Sí.
Creo que
Sí.
Joe Fugate decía esa frase.
Sí, correcto.
Y Daniel dice lo mismo, ya sea Atron o Backman, son los sets que él mencionó, que así empezó él en un regalo de Navidad, y leer. Bueno, y como decíamos hace rato, está YouTube, está Internet, infórmense, hay en español, en inglés,
Sí,
visiten nuestros
sí.
canales, y creo que es una buena recomendación, un set
Y
completo nuevo.
Y lo que vos dijiste, Eduardo, el otro día es lo que hizo Walters al momento, que hace esas entregas mensuales. Creo que eso es ideal hoy en día para la gente que empieza.
Sí.
Esos Walter Hits son muy buenos para enganchar a las nuevas generaciones.
Sí, no sé, creo que nada más está en Estados Unidos. Luego lo voy a investigar.
Probablemente.
Sí,
bueno, no, Walter tiene. No, son muy buenos haciendo shipping en el exterior. Sí.
Hay que preguntar. Yeah. Daniel, we're talking that Walter just launched some kind of set that you have everything in a box that you subscribe, and every month they arrive by email. No, sorry, by mail, by regular mail.
I wish your email mentioned the shipping cost.
Yeah, that's the future. That's the future. Yeah, open email and open a card. No, but Walters have this new program that you subscribe and receive a box with all you need for a basic. I think it's a diorama, something to start with the complete set in a small box. That's something like to complement perhaps with a Backman or Arton set, and like you said, start with a small thing, and then start to grow, and that's a good idea. And Walters, I think that's the right way for. And we were talking that I believe it's only for United States, not for everybody.
We can check on that. Right. Yeah, Eduardo, you say by accident, email. The other day I was talking with a person who is involved here in Australia in the industry, and I say something similar to him, but the idea we were discussing and dreaming, talking like I say, why in the future, it could be a good possibility. Everyone has a 3D printer, and you buy the plant from a company. They send that by email, and you print at home. Like I say, that could be the future.
Well,
that could be the future.
Yeah,
why not?
We are not far from that. That you send me the scheme by email. If I have my 3D printer and I just print, and that's it. But
that's it.
We're
save a lot of money.
Yeah, we're very close to that.
Eduardo, le podemos hacer las preguntas de rigor de qué le gusta más, su favor. Traduciendo, estábamos diciendo que vamos a chequear con Walters sobre esos kits, y hacíamos una broma de que en el futuro quizás uno pueda comprar cosas físicas por email si uno tuviera una impresora 3D en casa y que uno imprime. Le mandan por email el plan, print, that's it. Daniel, we have classic questions here, and to wrap up the program, and they're very simple. Obviously, favorite railroad, like we know now, but tell us. Your favorite locomotive, could be prototype, and then favorite locomotive in, HO scale or N scale or anything you like, could be O scale, doesn't matter. And favorite DCC controller.
NCO.
That's going to be an easy one.
That's a tricky question.
Yeah.
I'm going to think about this one here. Let's see now.
Okay.
All right. So to start that first part of the question, locomotive-wise, every locomotive, you can never choose a favorite. Am I wrong or am I right? I would have to say my favorite locomotive. Now I'm gonna kind of have to lean more towards diesel now. I mean, steam's fine, like I just said. I love looking at steam motor mechanics, but because of being a diesel mechanic full time and go to school for it, I've always found that my favorite locomotive is an EMD 6-axle, like an SD70 Ace, SD70M. A locomotive like that, because not saying that GE, I like the style of it, don't get me wrong, but I just think EMD is more of, I just like the locomotive styles on EMDs better than I do GEs. Yeah. I just think that they're more beefy looking, and they're more there's power underneath that hood with a 5,000 horse, maybe 5,500 horse max 16-cylinder diesel 2-stroke motor that they maybe have sitting underneath the hood there. So yeah, I would have to say EMD diesels all the way. 4-axle, but I do love the 6-axle. A lot better. Bigger's better. Am I right?
Yeah. Bigger is better.
We have something similar. I think Eduardo, you shared one of our favorite is the EMD, the 70 AC, the Bush one, the 4141. That's a beautiful locomotive.
Oh yes, I love that too.
That's I think I call the Cadillac of the locomotive. It's beautiful, and the scheme, like I say,
I have it right here.
Scheme. Yeah, and Eduardo favorite. And also I have the same problem like you. Like it's very hard to have a favorite because even I'm Eduardo was saying like I received the other day a distinction award for being I work in waste, so I'm environment person, and I'm very greeny.
Right.
But I love the alcohols, the pollution of the alcohols. I can't explain it. Like that, like, and then you 50s, you 25s, and then me. I say it's super hard, but you are
right. There's so many locomotives out there that I just don't know what to choose, but there's my honest answer on that.
Déjame traducir un poco. Un poco al final decía Daniel que le gustan EMD de 4 o 6 ejes, las grandotas le gustan, 5,000 caballos de fuerza, que tú las ves y son grandes. Habló un poco de las George Bush, por eso las saqué. Yo aquí también saqué mi Ferrosur. Pero sí lo que decía que le gustaban las de vapor, pero evolucionando es ahorita principalmente MD, un poquito más sobre G, que lo comentaba, y las grandes, 4 y más bien las de 6 ejes son la que estaba platicando. Y algo típico para todos los que nos gusta, es difícil decir una sola máquina me gusta. De repente pues sale la George Bush, sale la Ferrosur, sale Kansas, sale UP, todas te gustan, y es un problema para la economía, pero bueno, eso demuestra la pasión.
Okay, very good. Now, DCC, any preference, any system you prefer?
Remember, you have a sponsor in the show.
I know, it's all right. The show stopped right here. Well, so we have said before in the past, there's not really any better system out there. Everyone is like equivalent, but in my personal opinion, Digitrax. That is
again. Sorry, I can't hear.
Digitrax.
Digitrax.
There we go.
I hear some noise.
But anyways,
there's some noise.
In your face, Eduardo. Second time. We're moving.
I'm having so much fun, guys. Thank you. All right. So, anyways, on a serious note, to answer the question, Digitrax, and the reason why I say that, well, of course, one, I'm using that system currently, but two, I got the Zephyr Extra, the DCS 51. I had saved up enough money that I was $5 short of buying the first system. That's what I got as my first starter. When I was, at Ken's house almost every Saturday night, it used to be just to hang out, chill out. Before we started doing this podcast deal, I asked him what's the best system, and he pointed to what he had, which is almost a Cadillac that he had 20 years ago. That we are now telling him, hey, you got to upgrade this, man. It's not like you could just keep this forever. It still works here and there, and that's why every time I go over, he's like, hey, this doesn't work, that doesn't work. Send it off. I can't fix it. But anyways, after I got the DCS 51, I had waited 2 weeks for it to arrive. So I came back home from a Sunday. I had a good friend of mine from church, and my mom looks at me and says, hey, you remember that thing you ordered 2 weeks ago? Yeah? Go look at the front door. ModelTrainStuff.com, and had my name on it. It's like, sweet, brought it down. There it was, my first DCC system, put it on the track. Got a couple DCC sound-equipped locomotives, an MTH, 2 Atlas with the QSI quantum sound decoder -8s. And then I expanded it out from there. And then as time progressed, I got the UT4 for Christmas. I got a UP5 here. And then as I got older, I was able to get the radio system. And then now, as I turned 18 and graduated high school, got my first part-time job out of trade school while I was in college too, that I started making my own money. I thought, hey, I can save up stuff, buy a controller here, buy an extra DCC accessory here, I got the LNY box, the Loconet Wi-Fi, so now I don't have to tie it into my computer programmer, because I got the PR3 for JMRI, because I only use JMRI to program my locomotives. So much more easier. It's not as much of a hassle as it is indexing the individual CVs on the controller. The basic CVs like CV3 and 4 for momentum, acceleration, deceleration, all that, I can get in my head. But when you get into more complex, Soundtracks has created the 2-dot part of CVs, to whereas you can go to 0 to 255, that's it. NMRA went back, they put in another 300 value listings, but you got to enter into a second page of programming in order to enter into those individual CVs. So they use it for their new feature, dynamic digital exhaust, which is an automated system that if the locomotive feels like there's a lot of weight behind it, it's going to increase the volume and it's going to increase the chuffs on a steam revs of a diesel. Vice versa, when it feels there's a lot of slack action, then it's basically going to dial down, rev down, and the steam chuffs are going to be less intense as it is pulling a little train. So I just feel that, the system that I'm working with runs great, operates my trains when I need to. And I've got the new DCS 210. Well, that has now been discontinued. They got the Evolution Extra or the Evolution set that now they got the USB port, your 2 separate power options, the barrel plug for the 5 amp, 8 amp, other stuff tied into one box. I can remember about 20, 25 years ago, they used to have all those individual little boxes and there's so many different sets offered. You got the radio version, you got tethered, you've got your foreign systems, European, stuff like that.
Let me say something, Daniel,
Yeah,
Spanish first. Lo que sí reconozco que los dos sistemas son escalables, en inglés es upgrade, pero creo que eso es bueno. Realmente es una ventaja muy fuerte. O sea, ahorita Daniel nos estaba platicando cómo empezó a los sets y mencionó varios modelos y subió y luego cuando tenía trabajo. Creo que la ventaja Digitrax o en sí es que los dos tienen esta facilidad de compro esto y ya es wireless, compro esto y ya tengo un reverse loop, o sea, y poco a poco vas, no necesitas gastar tanto de inicio como hace 20 años.
Y hay algo más que quiero destacar, que es la garantía de Digitrax. Y yo cuando empecé a instalar decoders elegí Digitrax por el tema de que no importa si vos lo rompes, ellos te lo arreglan. O sea, eso está bueno. Daniel, something else, like I always say, just not joking about Digitrax. I learned from my master in model, he had Digitrax, so he passed that to me. Like I said, if you had NCE, maybe I have NCE. That was lucky. But something I appreciate a lot of Digitrax, especially in the early days, I destroy a lot of decoders. I burn a lot of decoders, and the warranty they have, like doesn't matter if you did it or not. Between the 1 year, they send you a replacement, and especially with the switches and the 150. I burn so many of them, like really poof, smoke, and say, oh my god, here we go again. So I used to put like I keep like a box because Australia shipping again expensive, so I keep a box of Digitrax burn components, put everything together, and say, here it goes. I put my warranty there, and they never ever say anything to me. And I don't know NC because I don't have the experience, but that's something like as a customer, I
NC never fails. NC never fails. So
tell you something, Eduardo. Just install a decoder. Just go with the lighter to melt a little of plastic and burn the whole decoder. Let's see if NC replace that. Yes.
No, decoders only Soundtracks. Decoders for me only Soundtracks. Soy casado con George. Solo tsunamis.
Here we go.
I love the soundtrack stuff.
Pero bueno. Oye, ¿qué otra pregunta se nos faltaba para un poco terminar?
La última, this is if you want or not, that's if you have any preference for a brand of model trains. For example, in my case, again, super hard. I love Brother Limited now, especially N-Scale with the new Paragon 4, because they have a little battery inside the N-Scale, like that changed the world. And for example, in HO-Scale the other day, I received the new Challenger and the new 844, like they are amazing piece of machinery, really. But also I love, scale trains because the turbine or other, like I said, if you have any favorite or, up to you. It's no...
Oh, I don't know. I'm using mostly Athearn. 95% of my fleet is Athearn. Ready to run, Genesis. I would have to say that first train set that I got was 6 years old, but that being an Athearn, it was an old blue box GP38 CSX that I could have converted, but of course, after so many years of it just being in a box somewhere that I can't find it. But I wanted to say my favorite brand is Athearn. I do have a combination of a few Intermountain, Walthers, but 95% of my fleet is Athearn, locomotives, rolling stock, you name it.
Yeah, and other the progress of Athearn, is amazing. How the upgrade, and now the Genesis 2.02 is they're coming a long way, really. Okay, but I think all the brands is
Yes.
I think we're living in golden era of right model. It's amazing.
Sí, y creo que es como tradición. Mucha gente ha escuchado de Athearn que empezaron con su Blue Box y hace 40 años yo tenía, y como dices, llegó ahorita las Genesis nuevas. Tienen buena calidad, tienen, la verdad, con los decoder soundtracks para mí son increíbles. Y siempre alguien va a tener algo que decir, positivo o negativo, pero Athearn es una de las marcas top y estoy de acuerdo con Daniel. Por ahí mencionó también que era una Intermountain que tenía, pero bueno, al final de cuentas es la ventaja de estar en un lugar donde puedes escoger varias marcas y que te llegan fácil, que a veces con el shipping es un poco costoso para nosotros, pero la verdad, muy bien. Daniel, I don't know, something else that you want to add, something that you want to share? Do you have an actual project that you're working, something?
Not really. Working full time, there's hardly any time now.
It's horrible to be a grown man, work.
Yeah.
I know. It sucks, but I was thinking, okay, great, get in the work world, make some more money. That's all fine and dandy, and then the bills hit, rent's due every week. But so the real reality is I can't buy any trains that I used to. So good thing that I soaked up all that I could with the birthday money, Christmas money, grandma asking, what do you want here? What do you want this? What do you want up your list of the train? Stuff like that. But
no, that's great. Yeah.
Eso es lo bueno, trabajar y gastar dinero en trenes. Entonces hay que aprovechar eso. That is life, work and spend the money on trains.
Yeah. Well, we have only one life, okay? So let's enjoy it a little.
Right.
Perfecto. Pues, Daniel, muchas gracias por tu tiempo. Thank you very much for your time. We really enjoyed to share something of your life and some advice for the young people in Mexico, Australia, Argentina, and all the places they speak Spanish. And thank you very much. And we're gonna follow you on YouTube. I see that you have your channel, and we're gonna share the update layout. And if you please send me by email or by message, you mentioned the layout from the operation session guy. I don't know there was a link on YouTube or something.
Oh, that was a Model Order magazine.
The number. Perhaps if you have the number of the magazine, so I put somewhere in the video.
I can actually, yes, I can forward that information. Oh, actually, tell you what, what'sneat.com. That's our What's Neat show index. If you look up John Schindler, it should pull up he actually did an interview, the St. Louis Junction Railroad Company, that you should be able to pull that up there. You can drop in the link. I can actually send you some of the What's Neat links to your message, and you can just drop it down below in the description or wherever you need to type it in.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Daniel, I want to say thank you too. It was very pleasure to meet you. You are a fresh person, and it's nice, to talk with about trains and see from different point of view the hobby. We appreciate your time, and also always we say the same to all the people that pass. If somebody who would like to be in the show, like say we're trying to bring special people like you into the people they don't understand the language or they don't understand English, so we are like a bridge between you and them. So really appreciate, and again tell Ken we hunt him, so we want to hunt him very soon.
Right, yeah. No, likewise, that I got to meet another movie modeler. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much.
Bye.
All right, thank you.